Right. You know, Jake Paul's a kid that's out doing his thing. He's trying to make some money, whatever his deal is.
Yeah, I'll fight you. You would fight me? Why not?
Dana White didn't hold back as he slammed Jake and Logan Paul for their latest attempt to get attention. After tricking fans with a fake fight against a retired boxer, the two brothers weren't content with just that. They decided to try pulling another stunt to fool boxing fans once more.
I have the opposite perspective. I feel like ruining my little brother's boxing career would be so bad.
Dana White quickly shut them down with a harsh reality check, making it clear once and for all that their stunts are nothing but a disgrace to the sport.
Listen, he's a young kid out there trying to make some money.
Trying to make money, but after everything that's happened, it's hard to believe this is the same sport that gave us legends like Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, and Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, it's being tarnished by two YouTube stars who have clearly run out of ways to scam people. Jake even tweeted about the big moment on March 27th, saying it'll be streaming on Maximum. It's shaping up to be another joke, just like when Floyd Mayweather carried Logan Paul for 8 rounds just to collect an easy paycheck.
Something to do with some sort of episodic thing, right? That was my first thought. This is not a fight. This is some sort of episodic or documentary style.
Now, these two brothers, who do anything for a trending moment, are stepping into the ring, not for legacy or real competition, but because they've run out of every other ridiculous storyline to cash in on. On March 27th, 2025, they'll be on Max, but what's the point? To watch two social media stars slap each other around in a fight that's got all the realness of a WWE backstage scene. This isn't a real fight, it's just reality TV dressed up as boxing, with two millionaire brothers pretending to hate each other long enough to trick fans into handing over their money. The backlash they are facing is brutal, but it's well earned. Let's be honest. When real fighters step into the ring, they are fighting for something bigger than themselves. Legacy, honor, greatness. But when Jake and Logan do it, it's all about chasing clicks, selling prime drinks, and landing the next sponsorship deal.
I'm just gonna tell you the truth, it's not. They're not boxing.
Let's take a look at real boxing families. The Klitschko brothers, Vitaly and Vladimir, never fought each other out of respect for the sport. Same with the Spinks brothers. But the Paul brothers? They'd sell out anyone, even their own mother, if it meant making a quick buck off their fan base. As Chris Monick pointed out on Twitter, this whole thing has been marketed as a fight when it was never really announced as one. Classic Paul move. Dana White is absolutely loving this chance to tear them apart, and honestly, when the biggest promoter in combat sports is calling you out as frauds, you know you've gone from being cringeworthy to downright embarrassing. He's been calling them out for years, exposing them as nothing but glorified con artists pretending to be fighters. And with this latest stunt, he's been proven right once again.
First time I ever met him, I took my son to the first boxing match. I want to say it was Wilder and Fury. And this kid rolls up on me and he's got like a fucking jacket on with no shirt. And he rolls up to me the first time. I didn't even know who he was. He's being a total fucking wise ass. I'm like, listen, man, I'm fucking trying to get my seat situated here. He's like, okay, you go on and keep being famous or some shit like that. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? My son told me who he was.
Jake Paul loves to walk around acting like he's a boxing prodigy, but let's take a closer look at his career. His record of 11-1 might sound impressive at first, but then you find out his opponents have mostly been retired MMA fighters with no boxing experience, social media influencers, and guys old enough to be collecting Social Security. And when he actually fought a real boxer, Tommy Fury, Jake got humbled so badly that he had to retreat back to making YouTube vlogs just to distract from the loss. Now, instead of facing another legit boxer, he's fighting his own brother. That's how far he's willing to go to keep up the fake image.
Everybody.
Me?
Yeah, I'll fight you.
You would fight me?
Why not? You're tiny.
I'm taller than you.
You're still tiny. It would suck to be the one that has to deal with, losing, but I wouldn't be the one that would have to deal with
I have the
that,
opposite
so.
perspective. I feel like ruining my little brother's boxing career would be so bad.
Logan Paul's track record in boxing is even worse. He's faced fewer real opponents than he's done WWE promos. His biggest fights include being carried by a 44-year-old Floyd Mayweather, who barely broke a sweat, and a so-called match with Dylan Dennis that felt more like a WrestleMania rehearsal than an actual fight. At 29, Logan's still pretending to be a boxer while balancing his WWE persona. And now, just weeks before WrestleMania, where he's already booked to appear, he's stepping into the ring again. But sure, let's pretend this is a real fight and not just a circus act to push prime hydration on everyone, and here's the kicker. It's still going to rake in huge numbers. Why? Because people love a disaster. Jake's so-called fight with Mike Tyson got over 60 million views, not because anyone thought it was a legitimate competition, but because everyone was curious to see how ridiculous it would get. Now, two brothers with zero credibility in the sport are about to turn boxing into a total joke, and people will still tune in just to watch the mess unfold.
Is completely different than what him and his brother are doing. You know what I mean? I'm looking for the absolute best in the world. These guys who have trained their whole life, they fight in these smaller shows and then they make it to the UFC, and we've put the best against the best. It's just not what we do. There's a market for what these guys do, and
Dana White's been saying it for years. These guys aren't fighters, they are opportunists. They've turned boxing into a cash grab, carefully selecting opponents and creating fake storylines just to get people to pay for lousy fights. And with this latest absurd matchup, they've proven Dana right once again. This is what happens when YouTubers get into combat sports. They turn it into a joke.
Like if I wanted to do a UFC fight, is that something you'd entertain?
who would you want to fight?
I don't know.
You have wrestling and boxing.
I could get it done.
Do you ever do jiu-jitsu?
Of course.
Yeah.
I could get it done, Dana.
I'm not saying no.
Dana, sign me.
I'm not saying.
Let's not forget one of Dana White's best MC drop moments when he publicly called out Jake Paul, offering him a real UFC fight against Amanda Nunes. That was Dana's way of saying, if you're really about the fight game, step into the cage with someone who actually knows what they are doing. Jake never responded, because deep down, he knows the truth. He's not interested in real fights. He's here to cherry-pick opponents, control the story, and make sure every match is rigged in his favor. For years, these guys have been complaining about UFC fighter pay, taking shots at Dana White, and claiming MMA fighters only get 20% of total revenue, while NBA players rake in 45%. They act like they're heroes for the underpaid fighters of combat sports, but meanwhile, they're out here making more money than every UFC fighter combined, just by setting up staged celebrity boxing matches with handpicked opponents.
In the NBA, they're guaranteed a certain amount of money.
Yeah,
they still get paid.
Fuck?
In the UFC, they're not. There's no guarantee you have to go in there and fight to get paid.
Oh my god.
And you take all the risk.
It's ruthless, dude.
Let's be real. Jake and Logan Paul don't care about fighter pay. They care about their own pay. Whenever they talk about how UFC fighters deserve better contracts, it's not about supporting anyone else. It's just about taking cheap shots at Dana White to keep their names in the media. The irony is, they're doing exactly what they criticize Dana for. They're not here for competition or to challenge themselves against the best. They're here to game the system, pick easy fights, and profit off a fan base too caught up in the hype to see through the scam. Dana White has torn them apart for it, and rightly so. Every time Jake complains about fighter pay, Dana just laughs. Why? Because Jake and Logan are living proof that you don't need to be a real fighter to make millions. You just need to be a shameless, money-hungry showman. These two have done nothing in combat sports, yet millions still fall for their act. It's honestly pathetic.
Poster would have Logan versus Jake. No venue, no anything, right? There's no announcement of an actual fight. On top of that, Jake...
Get ready for some of the most scripted trash talk you've ever heard. Childhood grudges will suddenly be dragged into the mix, personal insults will be flying, and they'll sell it so well that even the biggest skeptics might start to think they actually hate each other. But here's the thing, they don't. The second that fight ends, they'll be backstage laughing it off and counting their millions, while their fans argue over who really won. Now, let's talk about the fight itself, if you can even call it that. This won't be a real, technical boxing match. It'll be a choreographed spectacle designed for entertainment, not competition. These guys aren't stepping into the ring to prove who's the better fighter. They're here to put on a show, sell pay-per-views, and remind everyone that they are, first and foremost, entertainers, not athletes. And the sad part, it's working. People will watch, not because they respect Jake and Logan as fighters, but because they can't look away from a disaster. They'll tune in just to see how bad it gets, just to see if this fight is the final blow to boxing's credibility. And when it's all over, with Jake and Logan shaking hands and splitting their massive payday, Dana White will be sitting back, shaking his head, knowing once again he was right. The biggest joke in boxing isn't the fight between Jake and Logan Paul, it's the fact that people are still falling for it. If you're tired of these frauds ruining boxing, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment. Let's expose this circus for what it really is.